Chapter 9. The little boy was confused and relieved all at the same time. He'd been so sure the dragons were going to find them and destroy their blue boat. But the dragons had vanished suddenly into the darkness of the night. By the time the little boy had emerged from beneath the overturned blue boat, they had already fled. When he'd stepped on the wooden arrow, it had surprised him. He tried to peer at it in the darkness. He had never seen anything like it. The arrow had been carved out of wood. The end was quite sharp and was clearly able to hurt the dragons and the other creatures. The little boy walked across the beach a bit more. He found even more arrows. All of them were carved out of wood, with sharp ends. Someone had launched all these arrows at the dragons. Someone had saved them. Someone had seen the dragons coming and decided to protect them. Who could have done this? The little boy asked his father. "I do not know," his father said. "But whoever they might be, they have saved us. They have saved our family." Their mother and the little girl joined them several hours later. The big blue ship sailed quietly onto the sand and settled in with a quiet whoomph. Their mother opened a door on the side of the ship, while their father slid a ramp down from the ship to the sand. The little girl then helped all of the animals on board the ship make their way safely down the ramp. They took their time because the night was dark. Some of the animals were afraid because it was very dark and they were in a new land. But the little girl whispered to them that everything would be all right. There were no sounds anywhere as all the animals left the ship. The silence was eerie. The little boy and girl were used to sounds of creatures back on their island, but here there were no sounds. If there were animals or others in this new land, someone had commanded them to be very quiet. It was as if the land, and everything in it, was holding its breath to see what manner of creatures had just invaded their home. Once they were all safely on land on the beach, the little girl, the little boy, and their mother and father gathered to the side, away from the animals. "What will we do now?" the little boy asked their mother and father. "Where will we go?" asked the little girl. "We cannot stay here on the beach out in the open," their father said. "We must take the animals to safety somewhere away from this beach," their mother said. All of them were shivering and growing cold as they stood there on the beach. The wind was incredibly strong, blowing in from the ocean. The little boy volunteered to go to the edge of the forest where the beach ended to see what he might be able to find. The little girl went with him. They searched along the edge of the forest. After a few minutes, they found an opening in the trees. There was a faint path that made its way into the forest. They raced back to their mother and father. They told them about the path. They all decided that they would lead the animals through the forest along this path. In the end, they also decided to carry the small, blue boat with them, just in case they would need it as a shelter during the cold nights. Their mother and father agreed to carry it. They made their way to the start of the path. The little boy and girl went first. Their mother and father carried the blue boat and remained at the end to make sure no animals got lost. It was difficult to see in the dark, but the little boy had sharp eyes, and they had rapidly adjusted to the darkness. He could follow the path. The animals that had made the long journey aboard the blue ship were scared and tired, but they trusted the little girl. They would follow her anywhere she led them. The little boy spied the small clearing first. It was filled with sand, and it wasn't very large, but it was big enough that they could stay here for the night. There were lots of tall trees that surrounded the small clearing just off the path that had led from the beach. Their mother and father set the blue boat down on one side of the clearing. The boat settled easily onto the sand in the small clearing. They scouted the forest all around the clearing. There were enough tall trees that surrounded the place that they felt good about spending the night there. There was one especially curious tree near the clearing. It looked like someone had carved out a spot to sit on the tree, against the trunk. It looked like a seat built from the tree. The little boy was curious about that, but he didn't say anything. There would be time to explore the forest and the trees the next day. They decided that each of them, their mother and father, and the little boy and girl, would all sleep beneath one of the trees. They would guard the clearing. The little boy decided to choose the seat that had been built into the tree. The spot was perfect for watching out over the sandy clearing. The little girl chose a spot in the middle of a small grove of trees that looked down on the clearing. The bison gathered around her in the darkness. They would keep her safe. The four of them made sure that the animals had all settled down safely to sleep in the sand in the clearing. They would worry about where they were in the morning and what might await them in this new land. For now, they were safe. But the little boy could not sleep right away. He still held one of the wooden arrows in his hand. He turned it over and over in his hands while he tried to go to sleep. He was determined to find where the arrow had come from and why they had defended them from the dragons. This particular wooden arrow had a metal tip which had a very faint blue glow surrounding it. He didn't know what that blue glow meant, but he meant to find out.